Today on the official Marvel podcast, Avengers Academy writer Anthony Oliviera discusses the next generation of superheroes.
Because of the nature of the Infinity comic, because we knew we had this really long run, I could just let these characters tell the stories they wanted to tell, and I knew that people would really respond to that.
And Marvel Senior Manager of Franchise Events, Mikey Trujillo, fills us in on what events fans can look forward to at this year's San Diego Comic-Con.
How do you create this experience knowing that people are going to be able to go wherever they want to, but we want to make sure that it's organized in a fashion that you have a good sense of direction and you don't feel lost, but you know exactly where your offerings are going to be.
Plus, we'll catch up with Riri Williams' adventures in the MCU ahead of the premiere of Marvel Television's Ironheart.
I'm Quinn Lamar.
I'm Preeti Chipper.
And this is the official Marvel podcast.
The Avengers Academy series has grown a dedicated fan base, which is no surprise given the fantastic writing and lovable cast of heroes, including Moon Girl, Captain America of the Railways, Bloodline, and Kid Juggernaut. Moon Girl is my absolute favorite. What about you, Quinn?
Oh, I'm a Kid Juggernaut stan for sure. This month, the first 6 issues of the Avengers Academy Infinity Comics series will hit comic book shops for the first time in Avengers Academy Assemble #1. I spoke with the series writer Anthony Oliviera about bringing this misfit team of superpowered teens together. So welcome, Anthony, to the podcast.
Oh, God, please. Thank you so much for having me, Quinn. This is such a pleasure. I'm so delighted to be here.
For those who are not familiar with Avengers Academy, could you tell us exactly what it is?
I don't know if I can tell you exactly what it is. What exactly it is kind of the mystery of the school, but what it seems to be as we get going is it's a school that's sort of assembling all the gifts and resources and faculty from the Marvel Universe, the world's greatest superpowers. And they're sort of fostering the rising heroes of the next generation. So they're studying with the Marvel Universe's biggest heroes, and they're learning the skills and lessons they need to be the best versions of themselves. The idea behind the school is that you are deciding for yourself what kind of hero you want to be.
Which is really cool. Can you break down the team for us?
The team? Yeah, sure. We do grow as we go, but at the beginning, we have 6 students. Aaron Fisher, Captain America of the Railways. He's sort of each of the students is sort of representing a different corner of the Marvel Universe. So Aaron's here representing kind of that Captain America, the military area of the Marvel Universe. But he is a homeless queer youth who sort of fights on behalf of the marginalized. We have Brielle Brooks, Bloodline, daughter of Blade. She's a vampire slayer. Yeah, she's great. So she's here from kind of that Midnight Suns spooky era of the Marvel Universe. And she, among other things, she's kind of dealing with this problem, which is that Doctor Strange put a spell on her when she was young to sort of protect her from magical detection so she could grow up normally. But that spell is still active and kind of getting worse. So she's sort of in this space where the world is starting to ignore her. We have Sheila Sexton, Escapade, coming to us from the mutant corner of the Marvel Universe. Her power is that she can switch with other people, although what that means seems to be different every time she does it and sort of uncontrolled. So she's sort of that classic mutant storyline of learning how to use her powers and learning, in this case, how to interact with non-mutant heroes. We have Lunella Lafayette, Moon Girl, our nominee from sort of the genius corner of the Marvel Universe. She's a super genius. She's got a pet T-Rex she switches with. And then we've got Red Goblin, Normie Osborn, sort of our spider nominee. He's got a symbiote. He is the scion of the Osborn fortune. And he's a bit of an edgelord, as we're learning as we go. Spiky little guy, sort of a chip on his shoulder, learning what it might mean to be a hero when you are kind of the heir of 2 different supervillain corners. He's kind of his Carnage's kid in a complicated way, but he's also obviously the Green Goblin's grandson, so that's kind of a mess. And then our new character is Kid Juggernaut, Justin Jin. He's got the powers of Sidorak, sweet little guy, coming to us from the magic corner of the Marvel Universe.
I love that. Like, how did you land on connecting him to Juggernaut?
The Marvel Universe has such a deep bench of superheroes that, like, anytime you want to create a new one, editorial's like, what about these thousands of other characters we have? So, like, you have to really make the case. And I really went to bat for Kid Juggernaut because I grew up reading X-Men comics, and Juggernaut is such a major, like that's a Jack Kirby, Stan Lee creation, right? Like you don't get more to the base code of the Marvel Universe than that. Cain Marko is a soldier in Korea who finds this temple and gets this power. And like, I've always thought, well, there's a story there that hasn't been told, which is like, what is the actual story of this tradition? So, and we already had in the Marvel Universe this Juggernaut who preceded Cain, who was Korean, whose story was kind of untold. So I kind of put together a document suggesting like there's a space for a story here. There's a family tradition here that hasn't been looked at. But also, like, to me, the Juggernaut as a figure is always about this kind of crisis of masculinity. So I wanted someone who was both a foil for that and kind of the opposite of that. Justin does not have any of Cain's sort of hang-ups. He's just a sweet boy. And like, what does it mean if you're supposed to be this rage monster and you're actually just a nice guy?
You're a sweetheart.
Yeah, exactly.
With all this power. I love that. There's such a twist on what we know Juggernaut to be. So speaking of like, you know, Avengers Academy, like it started out as like a handful of one-shots, right, in Marvel Voices Infinity Comic. And now it's spun off into this own Infinity Comic series, and now it's even in print. So did you ever think that this would explode in popularity like this? Or are you like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen?
I did. I actually did know. I did. I knew from the beginning that this was going to be something, because part of it is that the art is so great on this. Like Carola Borelli and Bailey Rosenlund are just killing it on this book, as well as the people who sort of did those prequels for us, all really great talents. But also, there's something about the form of this book that I felt like people are so hungry for. I think we've gotten kind of used to, you know, you get 4 or 5 issues of a series that sort of, by its nature, has to kind of tell like a big budget, tent-pole-y. It has to feel like a big movie, right? And just because we were on the app, I knew we had a bit more room to breathe. We didn't have to tell the 5-star 4-quadrant story. We could just be a little slower and really play around in genre and take our time and be a little silly sometimes and just be sad sometimes. Like, I grew up reading Chris Claremont on X-Men, where it's like, those books were a soap opera, right? Like, you did big fights, but you also had issues where you just kind of went to the mall or cried in your room, you know?
Yeah, like it was angsty also.
Yeah. And because of the nature of the Infinity comic, because we knew we had this really long run, I could just let these characters tell the stories they wanted to tell. And I knew that people would really respond to that. And because of that, we get to really get a sense of the dimensionality of these characters. We know what they like and don't like. We know what their favorite flavors of ice cream are. Like, and
that's important to know.
I think so. Yeah. Like, I think that when I was a kid, what made X-Men really sing to me was like, I really felt like I knew these people and I really wanted to go to this school. And I feel like Avengers Academy as a book is kind of my homage to that era and sort of trying to replicate that feeling for like a new generation. One of the themes that I really kind of wanted to build this series around was, well, what does it mean to be a hero in this moment? And I think that's a question we're all kind of asking. We all are sort of in this moment where it's like, well, what would standing up for what's right look like to us right now? And so when I was constructing Avengers Academy, I really wanted it to sort of answer that question, but also answer it in different ways for different people. I mean, superhero comics in the 40s emerge from this moment of responding to fascism, and they're about vigilantes who are kind of moving in and out of the law. And so Avengers Academy also kind of has these questions. I think being good is a hard thing to do in this world. And I think it's a question a lot of, especially young people, wrestle with. And this book is about wrestling with that question.
What can you tell us about the character Cherry Crane?
The senses we get of her I think are quite familiar to us now, of this person who seems to be trying to pitch themselves as apolitical, but is actually, as you listen, increasingly feeding young people with this kind of fascist fantasy of like the trad wife life. This eventually explodes into kind of a full-on recognition. This is actually a Hydra agent. And then we have to deal with this person. I think like a young person is very seldom going to have to deal with some foreign dictator they have to punch in the face. But I think they are very frequently going to have to deal with this sense of like rising fascism and how to deal with like when that blossoms to fullness in your neighborhood, for example, when that threatens the institutions that matter to you. Conversely, I also felt like this was a we needed to really engage with questions that young people actually think about now. So, for example, early on, one of our characters, Justin, who is queer, who is a gay man, recognizes that like he has to have a difficult conversation with a doctor about PrEP, and his doctor happens to be Doctor Strange. But I still really wanted to do that. Similarly, we have in Kari Beck, our Mysteriant character, one of the first sustained representations of an HIV positive superhero in comics. Like, it's very seldom we see such a character who comes back and who is part of our supporting cast.
Okay, so what would you say to someone who's new to Avengers Academy, curious about the print version that's set to be released next week? Do they need to know anything before picking it up? No,
that was important to me. I mean, the thing is, like, I've been reading Marvel comics I'm older than I look. So if you are a huge fan, you're going to be like, oh my God, that's the thing from issue 270 of Daredevil. But if you're completely new to comics, great. That's who I'm looking for. I want to show you how cool this stuff is, and I'm doing it assuming you've not seen any of it before.
It's so good. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
As you'd probably expect, a lot of planning goes into putting together the incredible Marvel booths at huge fan events like San Diego Comic-Con and Marvel Studios' TVA walkthrough experience at last year's D23, the ultimate Disney fan event.
So, what's it like creating unforgettable moments for the fans? I spoke with Marvel Senior Manager of Franchise Events, Mikey Trujillo, about his role in creating unique experiences for attendees. All right, so you are no stranger to the Walt Disney Company. Can you tell us about your overall career? Like, how did you get your start? How did you get to where you are now? And I guess tell us what you do now.
All of the above. Yes.
Everything.
So in order to tell how I got to where I am, I'm going to start to where it all began. Every year, the highlight was my family would go to Disneyland every summer. And so I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I realized when I would go to Disneyland, it really did feel like such a magical place, to use that phrasing. But honestly, like, I never felt more alive than when I was there. And I think it had a lot to do with the colors, the placemaking, it was the scents, it was the soundtrack. And that kind of just stuck with me. And so I've always kind of just been drawn to, all right, how can you make these fictional characters into a reality? So fast forward, I go to the University of Arizona. I get a degree in illustration. After that, I'm thinking, okay, where do I go to get a creative job? So I moved to California. And during this time, as I'm exploring my options, I think to myself, I might as well just go apply and work at Disneyland just so I can say that I worked there. So I started in Tomorrowland Attractions. I worked Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage. And it wasn't long after that I realized, like, my foot is in the door and there's just so much that can happen within this company. There's a world of possibilities. And that kind of set the stage of, like, every 2 years, I was just wanting to challenge myself and explore what is new. So I did 2 years in Tomorrowland Attractions. I was, as mentioned, going 20,000 leagues under the sea, diving in a submarine, but I was also sending people into space, going through Star Tours or Space Mountain. Then 2 years after that, I was in guest relations. I was a VIP tour guide. And then I became a Disney ambassador, and that was also for 2 years. Once that was over, I went as an event programmer at Disneyland, and I really got, like, the foundation of how to run an event, which I applied to Marvel. So when I saw the opportunity that Marvel was hiring, I took it in 2019, and I've been here ever since.
So now you are a senior manager of Marvel Studios franchise events, which is a very big title. But what does that mean? Like, can you walk us through what your day-to-day actually looks like?
As a senior manager for franchise events, I have the great honor of leading our franchise events team. And we primarily are focused on what is Marvel Studios' presence on the show floor at these big conventions in San Diego, in New York, and Anaheim with D23, the Ultimate Fan Event. And then from a day-to-day, we are corralling all these great minds together to see, all right, what is the best that we can put on display for Marvel? And then personally, I do a lot of research in terms of, okay, like, what is cool from the comics that would be great to showcase? What is awesome from our set visits or from any project that we're working on? And really do a deep dive on the subject matter to be an expert so I can bring what's the best of that to fans.
So when I go to a show and I get to the Marvel booth and I panic because I don't know how to see everything at the same time in the best order, I can send you an email and be like, Mikey,
exactly,
direct me.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, because that is something that we're actually thinking about, is so that how do you create this experience knowing that people are going to be able to go wherever they want to? It's kind of like a choose your adventure, but we want to make sure that it's organized in a fashion that you have a good sense of direction and you don't feel lost, but you know exactly where your offerings are going to be to experience.
So how did you get into Marvel specifically? Were you always a fan?
Yes, and I have to thank my older brother, Javi. He would sit me down and read me comics, which I'm forever in debt to just because of sharing those personal stories. But then it was anything we could consume and get our hands on. It was ripe for the taking. So like VHS tapes of the old 1960s Spider-Man cartoon. There was X-Men, the animated series on TV at that time. And then even like I can remember the 1990 Captain America movie, renting it from the grocery store, just being so inspired by it that we would take grocery store pizza and there's a circular cardboard underneath it. And I would take that and bring out crayons and I would draw the red and draw the blue circles and then put a white star in the middle and then put the cardboard handle, and I'd run out to the backyard and I would throw it just to see how much air I could get. And the goal was that it would ping, ping, ping and like hit all these sorts of walls.
Like ting.
I only got one, but maybe I should invest in that now that I'm an adult.
Do you think that like your time as a ride operator in Disneyland helped prepare you for this job?
Yes, absolutely. So the great thing about being a ride operator was you got to see what Walt Disney Imagineering would create in this attraction, and then we got to see how it operated. So for a comic convention, it's very much the same thing of you have long hours and you want to make sure fans can appreciate it the entire time. So what does it take to make sure that there isn't any closures, so to speak? And then on another level, it was great to just view human behavior. So there's large crowds. How do they operate when they're in this mass, knowing that people are going to be coming from every angle to experience this booth? And then once they are there, you still want to break it down into groups. So how do you narrow it down, whether it's a queue, whether you're using your space the most effectively? So when the time comes and they're looking at an object or they're experiencing something, how do they have that individual perspective? And it's like a real heart-to-heart kind of moment where it's just them and then whatever Marvel thing is on display. So absolutely.
What do you find are some of the biggest challenges when you are bringing this sort of experiential idea to an event like San Diego Comic-Con?
So you have people who have never gone to San Diego Comic-Con before, so you want to make sure you make an impact. I think when it comes to designing for conventions, we want to make sure that we have all these ideas. We are the house of ideas, but it's choosing, okay, what is going to be the best idea for the right time? And then also what's going to fit in our budget and our footprint, because there's a lot of different things that we could pull, but we want to make sure the venue is right.
That must be wild pressure.
Yeah. And also just knowing some of our releases and how top secret they are.
Yes.
And if something is going to be released that weekend, you want to make sure that we can advocate for it and have it on display. So we too are like, as a fan, chomping at the bit of like, okay, how can we make sure that, you know, that's incorporated too?
So you mentioned that you went to school for illustration. Is that a muscle you've been able to flex during your tenure?
It actually has been. And I'm very thankful for it. So I've always grown up drawing. But what's great about being in this role as the senior manager for events is that I can think about these ideas and I can sketch them up real quick and then use that to showcase it to executive leadership, to showcase it to the rest of my team, to our partners. And then we can get everybody's input in a really quick amount of time and say, all right, is that an idea worth pursuing further? Or do we need to pivot? Because you can say it one way, but when you actually see an image, it's so much more impactful.
What do you think are the qualities that make you successful at what you do?
I think anyone in this role, curiosity is a must of just how do you do it better next time and what else is out there that other people are doing. And then I think just having a very foundational understanding of how are you going to pull this off? Because it is a job and these events where you have a limited amount of time to create something in terms of the actual physical build. So you can't have something that's going to take 6 months to prepare and expect to install it in 3 days. And then just from a practical standpoint, You just want to make sure that what you're offering can be experienced by the most amount of fans there at the convention. It's thousands of people, but if you have something where only 50 people can experience a day, then that's really not where you want to spend your efforts, because it's going to lead to more disappointment and feeling left out as opposed to those 50 people who got to experience it. So it really is trying to find that balance and understanding where is the juice worth the squeeze and have a full array for all ages and demographics.
So, knowing what you know now, having spent all this time, if you could go back in time and talk to a young Captain Mikey, what would you say?
I would say, young Captain Mikey, you already know hard work pays off, so keep at it. And then I would say, have faith. It's all going to work out in the appropriate time.
That was lovely. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to talk with you.
Before mech-suited teen hero Ironheart takes to the screen this spring in her own Disney Plus series from Marvel Television, let's get a quick refresher on the young woman behind the armor, Riri Williams.
To be young, gifted, and black, though, right?
We were first introduced to Riri in Marvel Studios' Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, when the 19-year-old college student unexpectedly became the subject of a global power struggle between the US, Wakanda, and the undersea kingdom of Talokan.
You see, the African nation of Wakanda seems to have the world's entire supply of the super metal vibranium, and they're not keen on sharing it. So the Americans use a vibranium detector to locate a bunch more of the stuff at the bottom of the ocean. But those deposits happen to belong to the underwater kingdom of Talokan. Soon, Talokan is in danger of being discovered, and Namor, their king, places the blame on Wakanda. He threatens to destroy Wakanda if they don't turn over the inventor of the vibranium detector. So Wakanda's Princess Shuri and her royal guard Okoye head for Massachusetts to track down this troublesome tinkerer.
This is where Riri Williams comes in. She is the young genius behind the vibranium-seeking device.
Wait, did I piss off Wakanda?
Riri's a prodigy who built her first inventions at the age of 3, playing with her stepfather's tools. Now, as a freshman at MIT, she's built an incredibly advanced technology as part of her class projects, but she had no idea what it was being used for.
Nah, I ain't built no detector for no CIA. I made that for my metallurgy class. A school project. Yeah. My professor said I'd never be able to do it.
When Shuri and Okoye find out just who this wanted inventor is, they have an immediate change of heart.
We have located the scientist. She is in the American equivalent of a Wakandan village school.
A school? Please tell me it is a professor.
It's a student, Mother. We can't give her to Namor.
Rather than use Riri to ransom their country's safety, Shuri vows to protect her. Unfortunately, the FBI shows up to take Riri into their custody.
I think that I'm actually gonna take my chances with this merman because at least he never brought the FBI to my garage.
But boy, do those guys underestimate Riri. Our young hero not only escapes the feds, but decimates several of their drones and pursuit vehicles in the process, thanks to the pet project she's been working on, an Iron Man-style armored battlesuit.
That thing can fly.
There's an entire YouTube channel dedicated to sightings of me.
But Namor and the Talokanil are not happy. They launch a full assault on Wakanda while Riri is hiding out there at the royal palace. During the battle, Wakanda's Queen Ramonda sacrifices her own life to save Riri. As eager as Riri is to return to her normal life, she feels compelled to stay and help.
Your mother protected me like I was one of her own. The least that I could do is try to return the favor.
And she certainly does. While the Wakandans are drawing up battle plans for their war against Talokan, it's Riri who figures out Namor's weakness and identifies the means to stop him.
But Riri doesn't just aid them behind the scenes. Using Wakandan tools and materials, she builds a far more advanced version of her armored flight suit and fights side by side with the Wakandans during the big climactic battle against Talokan. She even manages to shoot the flying Namor right out of the sky. And it's with Riri's help that Shuri, the newly crowned Black Panther, is able to best Namor. After Namor's defeat, the two nations declare a truce and end the battle.
When we last see Riri Williams, she's heading back to school in the States. But sadly, she must leave behind her battlesuit and the Wakandan tech it was forged from.
But something tells me that won't have been the last battle armor Riri builds.
Is it the trailer for her own series? Is that what tells you that?
Could be.
Because she's wearing a kick-ass new suit in the trailer.
All right, that might have given me a clue.
Well, while we wait for Marvel Television's Ironheart, you can see Riri in Marvel Studios' Black Panther, Wakanda Forever right now on Disney+.
Of course, Riri Williams isn't the only hero in the MCU with a suit of iron. The late Tony Stark, otherwise known as Iron Man, can be described as many things: courageous, relentless, selfless, and he sure can deliver a one-liner. It's no surprise that he's captured the hearts of Marvel fans around the world. On the big screen, the beloved Avenger is played by actor Robert Downey Jr. The character first starred in Marvel Studios' Iron Man, the film which kickstarted the MCU in 2008, and went on to appear as the noble superhero for many years to come. When we first meet him, Tony Stark is the wealthy, tech-savvy, and dare I say arrogant, CEO of Stark Industries. He seems to have it all. That is, until he's kidnapped by a criminal group known as the Ten Rings. Tony builds an armored suit to break free from his enemies, which leads him to becoming Iron Man and saving the world many times over. In Marvel Studios' Iron Man 3, Tony Stark and his temporarily superpowered girlfriend Pepper Potts defeat evil industrialist Aldrich Killian. Tony has an epiphany, which he shares with his Avengers ally, Bruce Banner.
So if I were to wrap this up, tie it with a bow, whatever, I guess I'd say my armor, it was never a distraction or a hobby. It was a cocoon. And now, I'm a changed man. You can take away my house, all my tricks and toys. One thing you can't take away, I am Iron Man.
Iron Man 3 is now streaming only on Disney+.
Next week on the Official Marvel Podcast, we'll hear from Senior Product Development Manager at Marvel Games, Tom Tao, and Chief Writer and Creative Designer Robin Bao about what players can expect from the all-new game Marvel Mystic Mayhem.
See your superheroes and supervillains kick butt and take down terrifying nightmare constructs.
And that's it for this episode. If you haven't already, make sure to leave us a review wherever you're listening. It helps other Marvel fans find the show.
Yes, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode.
This episode was hosted by Quinn Lamar and myself, Preeti Chipper.
Our producers are Jasmine Estrada and Anita Flores, with additional writing from Christopher Healy.
With help from Senior Manager of Audio Production and Development, Brad Barton, and Production Manager, Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Justin Harris.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berger.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.